Equals you know that feeling when you're scrolling through your photography portfolio website, and every single image feels like an elaborate performance of who you think a serious artist should be? Your fingers hover over the delete button, trembling slightly. Each carefully curated landscape and moody portrait isn't really yours, it's a costume, a mask you've constructed to hide the amateur who still gets excited about accidentally perfect sunset shots. You know that feeling when you're in the pediatric oncology waiting room, and you've perfected this calm, composed exterior? Your shoulders are granite, jaw clenched so tight your molars ache. Inside, you're a hurricane of terror, your child's test results pending, but you've become an expert at performing strength like it's a role in a play nobody asked you to audition for. You know that feeling when you're explaining to your startup investors why your revolutionary app isn't gaining traction? Your chest feels like compressed steel, breath shallow. The pitch you're delivering is 90% performance, 10% truth. You know the real problem, you've lost passion for the original vision, but you'd rather construct an elaborate narrative about market conditions than admit your own creative death. These moments are more than just social performances. They're what Jean-Paul Sartre would call bad faith elaborate self-deceptions where you construct personas to escape the terrifying responsibility of authentic existence. Equals you're not just wearing a mask, you're believing the mask is your true face. What if the mask is actually suffocating the person underneath? What if every carefully constructed performance is a form of running from your real desires, your genuine self, your radical freedom? Sartre would challenge you, who are you when nobody's watching? When the investor slides leave the screen, when the waiting room empties, when no one is judging your artistic portfolio, who remains? The mask always has cracks. And those cracks? They're where your authentic self breathes. Equals that fear you just felt? It is costing you more than you realize. Bad faith is the art of lying to yourself, of constructing elaborate narratives that shield you from your own radical freedom. It's the moment you tell yourself you have no choice, when in fact, choice is all you have. Jean-Paul Sartre understood that humans are terrified of the responsibility of total freedom, so we create stories that make us feel powerless. Consider the musician who never releases her music, claiming she's not ready. Her hands tremble every time she approaches the recording studio, stomach churning with invented obstacles. But the truth? She's choosing not to choose. She's manufacturing excuses to avoid the vulnerability of creation. Or the corporate manager who stays in a soul-crushing job, believing he's trapped by mortgage and family expectations. His chest tightens each morning, breath shallow, shoulders hunched under an invisible weight of false necessity. He whispers to himself, I have no other option, when what he really fears is the terrifying landscape of his own potential. Watch the graduate student who complains endlessly about her research but never actually changes her approach. Her jaw clenches during department meetings, face flushing with rehearsed frustrations. She's performing victimhood, avoiding the uncomfortable truth that she could redesign her entire project if she truly wanted. Bad faith is expensive. It costs you years. Decades. Equals entire lives spent performing helplessness instead of embracing radical responsibility. Each fabricated limitation is a tax on your authentic existence. The question isn't whether you're living in bad faith. The question is, what are you going to do about it now? Your freedom is waiting. Uncomfortably. Urgently. Uncompromisingly. Equals so why do we do this to ourselves? The answer lies in a fundamental misunderstanding. You're standing in the art gallery where your entire life's work hangs, paintings you've created over decades, and suddenly you realize every single piece looks exactly like what you think other people want to see. Your chest tightens. Your hands, which once moved with passionate brushstrokes, now feel like strangers holding someone else's tools. This is bad faith. This is how we lie to ourselves. Jean-Paul Sartre would recognize this instantly. You've constructed an entire identity not from your authentic desire, but from a performance designed to meet external expectations. Your throat closes slightly as you realize how many years you've spent painting not for yourself, but for an imaginary audience of critics and potential buyers. Each canvas represents a compromise. Each brushstroke a tiny surrender. Your shoulders grow heavy with the weight of unexpressed potential. You've been telling yourself you're practical or responsible when what you're really doing is avoiding the terrifying responsibility of true freedom. Freedom means admitting that every moment, you are choosing, even when you believe you're not. The radical truth is simple, you are always choosing. Refusing to choose is itself a choice. Your breath catches as the revelation hits. Those paintings aren't just art, they're a map of your self-deception. Each one whispers, this is not who you are. Equals this is who you thought you should be. Sartre would lean in and ask, what would you paint if nobody was watching? If failure was impossible? If judgment didn't exist? That painting, the one your heart quickens to imagine, that's your authentic self waiting to emerge. Not the self constructed by fear, expectations, or social scripts. But the self that is pure, unfiltered possibility. Your hands start to tremble. Something is about to change. Equals now that we understand where this wisdom comes from, let us break down exactly how it works. Bad faith isn't just a philosophical concept, it's the story you tell yourself to avoid the terror of total freedom. Picture 3 moments where you're dancing with self-deception. First scenario, you're a 37-year-old graphic designer who keeps saying I'll launch my own studio someday while never actually designing a portfolio. Your hands tremble slightly when colleagues ask about your plans. Your chest tightens with each evasive answer. You're not pursuing your dream, you're performing the narrative of someone who might pursue their dream. This is bad faith, pretending circumstances prevent you, when you're actively choosing not to act. Second scenario, during your monthly therapy session, you describe your toxic relationship as something that just happened to you. Your throat feels tight, words sliding out like rehearsed excuses. But Sartre would challenge, you're choosing this. Every moment you stay, you're actively constructing this reality. Your victimhood is a performance, a way of avoiding the radical responsibility of reshaping your life. Third scenario, you work a corporate job you despise, telling yourself you have no other options. Your shoulders grow heavy with this manufactured limitation. But options exist, they're just uncomfortable. Bad faith lives in that comfortable narrative of powerlessness. The bad faith detector works like this. 1. Equals identify the story you're telling yourself. 2. Ask, am I truly without choice? 3. Recognize that not choosing is itself a choice. Your freedom terrifies you because it demands everything. You must constantly create yourself, with no predetermined essence, no predetermined path. Each moment is an invitation to authenticity, to stop performing and start living. The antidote? Radical honesty. Look directly at the stories you've constructed. Feel the uncomfortable tremor of realizing you've been lying to yourself. Your life is not happening to you, you are happening to your life. Freedom is not comfortable. Freedom is a constant act of creation. Equals here is where everything shifts. This is not just a technique, it is a complete transformation. Scenario 1, the unfinished novel. Before, your manuscript sits untouched, a graveyard of half-formed sentences and abandoned chapters. Your chest feels like concrete, heavy, immovable. Each glance at the unfinished pages triggers a wave of shame. You've told yourself for years that you're not a real writer, that some mystical permission is required to claim that identity. After, suddenly, you recognize this as pure bad faith. No external validation determines your writerhood, only your choice to write. Your hands start moving across the keyboard, not from inspiration, but from radical responsibility. You're not waiting for permission, you're creating your own narrative. The manuscript becomes a living document of your freedom, each word a deliberate act of self-definition. Your breath deepens. The weight in your chest dissolves. You are writing not because you are a writer, but because you are choosing to be one right now. Scenario 2, the corporate mask. Before, in team meetings, you perform a version of yourself, agreeable, smooth, never challenging. Your throat feels tight, swallowing authentic responses. Your shoulders hunch slightly, as if physically compressing your true self to fit institutional expectations. After, you realize this performance is bad faith, a systematic denial of your freedom. Your next meeting becomes an experiment in authenticity. Equals when a problematic strategy is proposed, you speak. Not aggressively, but clearly. Your voice trembles initially, then steadies. You're not just speaking, you're exercising your fundamental human freedom to choose your response. The room's energy shifts. Your colleagues see someone fully present, fully responsible. Scenario 3, relationship illusion. Before, you've maintained a relationship more out of habit than genuine connection. Your stomach churns with unacknowledged dissatisfaction. You tell yourself stories about compromise, about making it work, classic bad faith narratives that distance you from your actual experience. After, authenticity arrives like a sharp breath. You recognize that staying is itself a choice, and therefore your responsibility. The conversation becomes not about blame, but about radical honesty. Your hands, once clenched, now open. You're not ending something, you're choosing your next authentic step. The pain is real, but so is the liberation. Equals understanding the shift is one thing. Here is how you practice it, starting today. Your first bad faith detector happens in the ceramics studio, where you've been telling yourself for years that you're not creative enough to make art. Your hands hover over the clay wheel, trembling slightly. The instructor watches, her eyes patient. Bad faith technique 1, radical naming, she says. What story are you telling yourself right now? Your throat tightens. You realize you've constructed an entire narrative about your creative limitations, a comfortable lie that prevents you from actually trying. Your chest feels heavy with accumulated excuses. I'm not an artist, you whisper. That's the lie, she responds. An artist is someone who makes art. Are you making art right now? Scenario 2 unfolds during your weekend freelance work. You've been avoiding a challenging project, claiming you're waiting for inspiration. But inspiration is another bad faith trick. Your stomach churns as you recognize the self-deception. Radical responsibility technique, you choose this moment. Not choosing is also a choice. Your fingers start typing, deliberately slow. Each word becomes an act of reclaiming your creative agency. Third scenario, the morning mirror. You catch yourself performing an identity, the responsible professional, the dutiful partner, but something feels performative. Your jaw clenches. Where are you hiding from your authentic self? Jean-Paul Sartre would say you're condemned to freedom. Every moment is a choice. Every performance is a potential prison. The bad faith detector works like this. Pause. Ask, what story am I telling myself? What am I avoiding by maintaining this narrative? Week 1, discomfort. Week 2, resistance. Week 3, glimpses of authenticity. Week 4, radical ownership. Common mistake? Thinking authenticity is comfortable. It isn't. Authenticity is a constant, courageous confrontation with yourself. Your breath catches. You are becoming. Once you have practiced these techniques, the next step is weaving them into daily life. You wake before sunrise, your chest tight with the familiar weight of potential self-deception. The bathroom mirror becomes your first confrontation, not with your reflection, but with your authentic self. Your morning coffee ritual transforms. Instead of mindless scrolling, you ask, what story am I telling myself right now? What convenient narrative am I constructing to avoid true responsibility? Your hands wrap around the warm mug, fingers tracing its ceramic curve, feeling the deliberate choice of presence. At work, during a project presentation, you catch yourself mid-performance. Your throat constricts as you realize you're playing a role, the competent professional, instead of revealing your genuine capabilities and vulnerabilities. You pause. Breathe. Speak from your actual experience, not the persona you've constructed. Lunch becomes a moment of radical honesty. Your colleague complains about being stuck in her career, and instead of offering sympathy, you gently challenge her narrative. What are you choosing not to choose? You ask. Your stomach tightens, knowing this conversation might be uncomfortable, but authenticity rarely feels comfortable. By evening, your shoulders feel lighter. Not because everything went perfectly, but because you've been present, truly present, with your choices. You're not avoiding discomfort, you're walking directly through it. The day's final reflection isn't about achievement, but awareness. Where did you hide from your freedom? Where did you blame circumstances instead of acknowledging your power to respond? Your breath deepens. This practice isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself, without apology, without masks. This is not perfection, it is direction. Let us bring this full circle. Remember where we started? You were trapped. Believing life happened to you, not through you. Now? You understand something profound. Freedom isn't a permission slip. It's a responsibility you carry in every breath. Imagine standing in your art studio. Those half-finished canvases aren't just paintings, they're unacknowledged choices. Your hands, trembling slightly, hover between another safe landscape or that raw, vulnerable self-portrait you've been avoiding. Before, you'd rationalize. Not ready. Maybe later. Now? You recognize these as bad faith excuses. You choose. Right now. Brush in hand, chest tight with anticipation, you start painting the version of yourself you've been too scared to acknowledge. Each brushstroke is an act of radical freedom. Or consider that startup idea you've been suffocating in spreadsheets and what-ifs. Your stomach used to churn with imposter syndrome. Now, you understand, the very act of hesitation is a choice. Not launching is as much a decision as launching. Your breath becomes steady. Your jaw unclenches. You are not defined by success or failure. You are defined by the courage to choose, repeatedly and authentically. Jean-Paul Sartre would remind you, you are condemned to be free. This isn't a punishment. It's an invitation. An invitation to stop performing the life others expect and start living the life you're creating. Your transformation isn't about perfection. It's about persistent, courageous choosing. If this opens something in you, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Share this with someone ready to hear it. Drop a comment, what insight hit you hardest? Watch the video appearing on screen now. Your transformation starts not tomorrow, right now, in this breath, in this choice.